Hey everybody, welcome to Field of Dreams on NCBN TT. My name is Steve David, I'm your host. Today we want to talk about our national football teams in activity. And joining me on the set today, I would introduce the people who's going to help me do that. And sitting right next to me is Lynda Bramble. Welcome to the set, Lynda.
Thank you very much, Steve. Always a pleasure.
And next to Lynda is Jefferson George. Welcome to the set, Jefferson.
Thank you, Steve. Always a pleasure.
And the reason I'm not wearing my jacket is because I want to show off our team, my Field of Dreams logo to the viewers. And so the jacket was kind of taking some of it out. So we wanted to make them know that we do have shirts.
Nice.
And a lot of them in abundance, they're all different colors. Thank you, viewers. Okay, guys, let me set the stage for our topic of discussion. And, you know, we talk about how everybody's catching up with us. And we talk over and over about things that we should implement to make our football work. And we talk everything. And we talk about our teams have to go out and play games or bring teams in to play to get the experience, because football is the more you play, is the better you get at it. It's like how kids learn repetition. You have to repeat and over what you do. So I look at our national teams, and the only thing that when we prepare is when we have some tournament coming up, or we're preparing for something, but not on a constant basis. We have a home of football, and why don't we use it? And so I want us to think about all these different things that we can suggest to our national football team committee or whoever they are, to say, hey, let's get serious, let's get our program going, because there's multiple, and not only from the top. We have from the under 15, under 17, under 20, under 21, under 23, national, all of that. So we're not active enough. And if we're not active enough, we're never going to get there. And everybody's going to catch up with us, and everybody's going to leave us in the rear. So, again, we can barbershop discuss, or you can wait for questions, but I think we can barbershop discuss this problem and see how we can move it forward. Mm-hmm. So, Lynda,
right.
Ladies first.
Ladies first. And for me, Steve, I would say that we have already been surpassed as a powerhouse in the Caribbean once. Right now, I think that all the other islands have catched up with us, and a lot have already passed us. And I'm saying that with the persons that are in charge, and this is a problem from grassroots, because we need to have those programs in place so that we will always have that pool, not just when it's time for a tournament, a pickup side. Mm-hmm. All right, so we need to have those tournaments from grassroots. We should. Yes, fine, we know COVID had interrupted the program and so forth, but now that things have started, we should have been way ahead already, right? Starting from, let's say, under 9s, we have a pool coming up, so we always have something in the making.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I like the word you just used, pick up side, because that's what we act as pick up.
Yeah.
Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with Ms. Bramble 100%. You mentioned that the others are catching up to us. I think that's not too accurate, because we have to catch up to the others right now. We are in tier 2 in the Nations League right now. Mm-hmm. So we can't even realistically set our sights on the powerhouses in CONCACAF, because there are teams within the Caribbean, CFU, that we can't beat. You know, it's not that we are that team that, you know, year after year Caribbean Cups and so on, we would be the favorites. If there's to be a Caribbean tournament, no, Trinidad and Tobago will not be the favorites. In our minds, yes, because we always see ourselves as though, we are a powerhouse. And I mean, that is pretty much living in the past, living with our view in the rearview mirror. But if we are to realistically look forward, we have to start realistically where we are at, which is in terms of our results and performance, we are an average team in the Caribbean. And that requires us to really and truly make sure that we develop proper programs and get all our teams, particularly developmental age, playing consistent football and in a program that prepares the players, to address all deficient areas.
We had to find a way to get, of course, funding is the most important. So, and the government cannot get involved in football in a certain way, direct way. But indirectly, they should be able to. So I'm saying, we have to have somebody ahead of that program. Not Steve David, but it could be. But if I were ahead of that program, I would try to get government intervention in putting money in, like every other country do, to support that. So how we do that? Again, I hope you guys listen. Go and get a pencil and paper. I can wait for you. Write down. How we can do that is we can have a National Football Academy. David John Williams left the Hoover Football, where we can set up a National Football Academy there and get government intervention into that to support that program where we can start developing our youths. So I want you guys to chew that bone for me in other things that we can make happen to that program.
You want to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, right. So, in order to get that program off the ground, okay, we need to have a proper structure. As you said, somebody who is in charge, and with that person in charge now, you have other persons who work alongside that person to develop programs for every single level.
So talking like that, I am the one. That's me.
All right. So you are that person.
Yes.
So we starting from, let's say, under 9s, come up to the under 13s, under 14, under 15s, and we moving right through the ranks with both male and female programs being developed alongside each other. We know that they always talk about funding is a problem, so that is why they can't do anything. As you said, yes, we get the government on board, all right, but we can also go to the corporate business once they are seeing value for money, something to invest in, all right, they will invest. Also, especially with the developmental programs, once we have the proper structures in place and the budgets are done up and so forth, FIFA is going they can apply to FIFA and they can get funding for those developmental programs, but that is not being done. Right, so you see, that is where the problem is. We need to have the proper persons in place so that the proper infrastructures could be developed so that we can start developing our pools. So we will always have a pool of players to choose from.
Let me add a little bit to that, what she just said before I let Jeff go. And government intervention doesn't only mean that they have to put in direct dollars. They can have, like they have tax breaks for investors who can come on board and give them a tax break. And I think they had that before. So do the same thing. And again, somebody needs to push this and push this hard, because us laid out in front of them so they can understand how they can be involved in our programs.
Yeah, that makes sense. The program or the plan is very important, right? A bad plan is better than no plan, because there's no way to fix no plan, right? And I think that's one of the issues that we keep, hitting upon. The financing is something that we all understand. We know it is important, but we cannot take finance in our context away from the realities in which we live, right? Our governments, I should say, because regardless of which one, they are reactive. If something is going on, they may see to put some support and some finance behind it. If there's nothing going on, they are doing nothing, right? The mindset of our people in leadership is not to invest in sports. That's not one of the things that they do. So for us, there has to be a program for this. Even as Ms. Lynda mentioned, in terms of corporate Trinidad and Tobago, very, very few corporate entities will get involved in sports because they like it. They're getting in sports for, brand recognition. They want to get some type of mileage for the money that they put in. At the point in time where football is, they wouldn't get that. So they're not putting it there. So the plan has to be a logical one that factors in all our shortcomings, which are many, right, and be modeled that can be scaled up when finances are available, right? Because the practical, now we have the physical infrastructure. Now you mentioned the home of football and so on, and even within the communities, there are facilities which can be used if there's a viable plan to address football at the grassroots level and at that developmental level when you're looking at national programs. Now, if we build something that then can be marketed, then you're going to get interest from corporate TNT and from the government to support that. And I think that's the direction that we have to go. We have to start again from the ground, put the plan in place, begin to work and operate the plan, and allow the corporate or financial aspect of it to grow with it. And that is the way that it is, because you can't want to sell something and people who you hope invest, they don't know what that something is, right? That's like pick up the Lucky Dip. They don't know what it is, but put $1,000 or put $10,000 in this. They don't know what it is. That is brand top business.
Like you guys said, a lot of investors don't want to jump in and put it in because of how bad things are and people. All of that is said, and we understand. But if I put, again, I'm representing the government here, if I put incentives for you to bring equipment in, to bring balls in, to bring computers, TV, things that would go in an academy, and I give you breaks to customs or different areas to make that happen, you as an investor, or you too as an investor, when you guys jump at that, you bring in stuff.
That's right. Sorry. Of course, Steve, as investors and people like to get back some sort of returns on their investments. All right. So as an investor, if it is that the government put things in place where, okay, we really want to start this up, we know that football as it is, this is one of the things that really bring our country together. When our teams are doing well, we have everybody on board. When it's time to really develop, we have nobody on board. So if it is that there are incentives, then we will get persons to invest. But as you said, that has to start from the governing body that is responsible for that sport. So everything has to start with the TTFA. And because of the fact where the TTFA is at present, a lot of persons will be skeptical because we are still under normalization. So a lot of persons who would be, thinking of doing it, they would be skeptical of really investing.
So I'm the government then. Look, my head is like Rowley. Okay? So I'm the government now. Okay, so give me a proposal. Show me on paper what you want to do, and give me an opportunity to say yes or no. So who is doing that? We have to have, like I said, a head person who's going to make this happen.
No, that's really good. That Steve is why we are where we are, because now again, as we already outlined, with that method of carrying something to them and seeing, if they would be willing to invest or support, can only work if that something is already taken traction, if it's something that's running, if it's something that's up. And that's why I agree with what Bramble said. We need to start it. We need to get people connected to the TTFA, and not something like, we're knocking in TTFA, because it's something that everyone has been saying for the longest while. We have to be able to independently develop a viable plan, right? Implement the plan, and then seek the resources to support it. Now again, in other environments, the sports and these things, they are viewed differently. People are going to put their money in front, right? That's not our reality, sadly, right? If it is that one of our teams happen to be successful and qualify for some international tournament, then sponsors flow on board. Why? Because that's an opportunity for their brand to be associated with this and that. And in sports, that is unfortunately our reality. How do we work around that?
So it's obvious nobody's thinking outside the box. And nobody's sitting down and saying, how can we make this work? So we're going to take a break. I want you guys to think about some of the things we can say. This is how we make it work. Okay? Viewers, we'll be right back after this short break.
Hi, join us for your movie classics on NCBN 22 Television Network every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. with repeats on Wednesday at 10 a.m. Streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. NCBN Television, the #1 online television network, bringing you the classics.
Current affairs.
That's
it. That's it.
Welcome, one and all. I am Gigula, alongside my sidekick, Mr. Aruka.
Your partner in crime, Juliet.
And we are going to be live on NCBN on a social media platform near you. IG, Facebook, YouTube. We are going to be
sensational,
tantalizing,
thought-provoking,
dramatic,
educational,
real,
sometimes spiritual,
suspense,
political analysis,
drama.
Take no prisoners, Juliet. Don't forget that part. Coming soon.
20,000 can rise against we like zombies on Juve morning.
Okay, welcome back. For those of you who are now tuning in because you forgot that we're on at 8 o'clock and you're running a little bit late, you're watching Field of Dreams on NCBN TT, and I'm Steve David, your host. And I have with me Lynda Bramble and Jefferson George. And like we were saying before, now we have to be very specific a lot of times because everybody wants to be president and this and that, and nobody wants to think outside the box to make this happen, even though we feel like we shouldn't have to. I mean, this should be happening automatic, but we have to make proposals and put things on paper so people can see it and get a feel for it and how it can help them, like investors and different people and all that. So maybe you can throw out a few ideas for them.
Okay, Steve. My first thing is, as the person who is the technical director of the TTFA, right? One of the first programs that I would look at developing, something at the, let's say the grassroots level, where you have the young players developing, right? You get those involved at the community level. So therefore you have the man with the bar, the man with the parlor, the man with the grocery, right? Coming out and investing in those youths. And in all different parts of the country, because you want to get that pool so that you can have at every single level persons from your best. You can attract your best when it's time to make a decision for your national teams. So for me, it's grassroots first, starting at that base level where you have the youths starting, you have them, let's say, in training, whatever community have their sport facilities, they use those, and then you have them in competition as well, playing, so that you get that sort of community support, parental support, and then you start building from there. That is the first thing I will throw out.
And to build off of what you just said too, and again with the National Academy, if they go to the National Academy and this, and you say grassroots, and it's something popped in my mind, the people who live off of the land, and at the National Academy they gotta eat the greens and the different things and eat well, and they will go home and they tell their mother and the father, we can't eat like that, we have to eat good nourished food, and all of that is going to trigger off something different.
That's
right?
That's right.
Excellent. That is again a fantastic plan, and I can build on what Ms. Bramble started with. And the technical director, they have restarted the coaching education program, right? And because it's community level, there are persons within the community who would be desirous of getting, their certification and so on. Now, this is a program in which you can plug these very coaches who just did their certification into an organized system where they would need to develop their coaching hours and so on. They can prepare their logs because they will have materials which they will be carrying out on behalf of the TTFA at community and grassroots level. So again, it's something that the coaches will be motivated because they need to work and show that they can carry out written coaching plans and so on to get back into the technical director. Now, at the end of the day, based on their performance and how they acquit themselves in this level, will be opportunities provided for them to go upper level into your national programs, right? And again, now we're talking about our actual situation here where we're short on resources at the grassroots and community level. This is a volunteer thing, right? So again, the output from the federation would not be, or the association wouldn't be, be minimal, right? So again, this is something that logically can really work in terms of setting up a proper grassroots development program which can feed into your national teams.
And on top of that too, Steve, with these grassroots programs, I know for sure once they're up and you do your proposals, you have your budgets and everything, you can go to FIFA to get funding. So as just said, most of the times it's pro bono work that they're doing. So you may budget in there for a little stipend for the persons who are involved in the programs and so forth, so that you're able to attract persons who really want to give back and so forth, and they get something in return. And from these grassroots programs now, in those same communities, you have the school level, you have the primary school level. So that same sort of thing within the primary school level, with the TTFA organized coaching program in which you have coaches attached to different primary schools. So you get the students are able to get good coaching and so forth. Then from the primary school we have the SSFL, which by the way we're starting, and that is the base where you most of your national players will be pulled from. But in that same SSFL structure, you will find that one school will have a few good players, and as soon as one of the better so-called schools see that player, they're going to look to poach and so forth. But if we have a program where the students can get an opportunity to expose their skills and so forth, properly structured, because some schools might be able to, they have their alumni association and so forth, who will be able to give funding. Then there are some schools who have no funding, like for instance my school, we would love to have something, so I got some volunteers to come on board to work. And if TTFA has that coaches program, you have structured things being taken place, so you have your development coming up and your pool with your players who can graduate now to the different national teams. And as you say, get into the academy programs. So you have academy from base level 9 and you're coming up.
Jefferson talk about when you Lynda talk about the coaches, and I always wonder how we select the national coaches. And sometimes it's like, Jeff, are your partner, you call me and I say, all right, let me see if I can put you on the team. And it's not done in a structured way either. And there is a lot of, this is something that if we plan it the right way and make it something you have to earn and merit it, then other people or coaches would strive to be that level to make it happen.
That's right.
So again, why don't we not? I mean, there's so many things, man.
True. I mean, that is something that directly, we tried to address that a very open and structured, procedure being placed for selection of coaches. And I know that there was, well, at least they began to develop a policy of doing interviews, open interviews, allowing people to apply for the position and so on. And again, that we have to really build on that. And again, that would give confidence, as you just mentioned, to coaches who are coaching in Trinidad and Tobago, and even probably outside, because I have local coaches who are working successfully at other places, that they would be given an opportunity to be looked at, right, for that selection. Something else that I was thinking about as well is, based on our current situation, these community-based development programs would really be the ideal situation for us to be able to properly develop national level footballers, right? There's studies that show a young player needs 10,000 training hours, right? Now again, if we have to develop some sort of framework to get anywhere close to that, it must fit with how our youngsters develop, not just in terms of the football, but in terms of their schooling, right? Because we don't have a program or any institution that exists where they are taken out, like in other countries, and developed separately. So we have to develop some way to get those hours or something close to that hour within our current circumstance. And again, community development is what is going to be able to provide that, because then after school you don't have to travel 2 or 3 hours to get to somewhere to train. It is in your community. It's probably walking distance, probably a 10-minute by taxi, and at that facility you're able to spend 2 or 3 hours in the evening. You go home, you can do your homework and get back to school the other day. So that again, because it's community based, it allows that individual, right, being the young player, to get to the field, get the hours of training in, and still apply themselves, in the academic life in school.
And as Steve said, because of the fact that we have no real kind of structured way in how the national coaches are appointed or selected, you find that selection of the national teams also, you find that if I am the coach, most of the players from my club or my friend's club would be in there, and you don't really have the best options. So when we have these structured programs in place, there is an opportunity to see all the talent that we have, so that we can select the best for each one of the teams. Right?
I agree. And I'm thinking, as you're talking, I'm thinking, how do we make this happen? And in my mind, back to it again, a National Football Academy, privately run or however, and I like to see it under the government structure. And there's a person, a manager, who's in charge of that, and prospective good players come and enter, and on the weekend, they spend the weekend, they work out, they develop. People, you see somebody good outside and then nominate them to come into the academy, just like they do outside in the US and all that. And they go through the football academy. And then we have kids to produce national footballers. Like we have a kid making machine. And we put them over there through the drills, and we have special coaches who design for that.
Exactly.
To work them, the hours you put in is what you get. The repetition is what's going to determine that.
And Steve, once it's a national football academy, then once it has to be under the umbrella of the TTFA, because they are the governing body for that sport. Right? And this herein lies the problem. Because as you say, the facility, because just recently we had our referees assistant program, our RAP course last month, and we stayed in at the home of football. We had the 30 referees who came in, we had the FIFA instructors who came in, and the facilities are there. It's really, it's comfortable, it's nice. So they already have a base structure. They have the fields, they have everything already, so some of the infrastructure is in place. You just need to get the persons on board to have the proper programs properly documented and so forth, and then get the right persons to start the program.
Yeah, I like what you mentioned there, Stephen. Just for the viewers' sake, and a little background into it, there have been times when we had, pretty decent structured programs. We had some years ago what was called the Center for Excellence program, where every zone had a Center for Excellence team, and these teams would be developed separately, and they would have games playing against each other, right? The South Zone ended up being the last zone standing, so to speak, with their program, which was supported by the former company, Petrotrin. And from that program, you can see there was, fairly good results, right? In the last administration, when they came in, I am aware that they as well had a program based on a zonal structure that they would have had in every zone, zonal youth teams, right? So you would have an under 14 South team, you have under 14 East, Central, Tobago, and what have you, and these teams would play together. There would be a central leadership in terms of the technical aspects of it, where the teams would be developed the same way, they would be trained in the same, formation of players and so on. So if the national team needs a player, they could go to the different zones and say, okay, I'm looking for a left wing, I'm looking for a centre back, I'm looking for a number 6, and we'll be able to find that in these places. Right now, again, the problem that is obvious here is that sustainability, right? So it's not developed in a way that will last given our economic environment, right? And I think that is where now we have to find models that would be fairly resistant to those economic impacts that so clearly exist.
You think it's economic, or is it because everybody wants to be the leader the head of everything, and this is what I don't like. One administration come in and they run it how they think it's supposed to be, and then another administration come in and that whole thing starts over and it's changed to something different. So we're not consistent.
True.
In how we have to be consistent. Another administration comes, takes over from where that administration left off.
That's true, Steve. But with that, as I say, that's a very valid point. And I think the reason we have these very sudden break from all that existed in the previous administration is how it came about, because there was no buy-in from the stakeholders. So obviously when somebody comes in, that's the end of that.
So that's why we can't be consistent.
Exactly.
We need to take a break. When we come back, I want to get into another subject with you. We'll be right back after the short break.
I come from a place where only happy people and pretty girl everywhere, yeah. I know life is rough, but we still a smile on we face, yeah. No matter how hard, man, we don't let tragedy face, way. We could take strain, that's why when we festin', we just fed God when we jammin', we just jam down when we drinking, man, it's strong rum, eh. Pop a bottle right now when we festin', we just fed God when we jammin', we just jam down when we drinking, man, it's strong rum, eh. Pop a bottle, push up your hand, yeah. We see body spot, push up your hand, yeah. God bless this land, yeah. So we go jam down, oh la la, so we go wind down, oh yeah yeah, so we go jam down. So we go wind down and in the air. If you're born right there in this land, where the vibes go and nothing. And in the air, if you're born right there in this land, where the vibes go and I come from a place where even when it's tough, we just live it up, it's amazing. When the battle hard, we just pray to God for we safety. Yeah. I know that we safe, yeah. We gon' make it. Cause God is our dream. When we festin', we just fed God when we jammin', we just jam down when we drinking, man it's strong rum, eh. Pop a bottle right now. When we
Okay, welcome back, viewers. Okay, guys, before we went on break, we were talking about inconsistencies with all the different leaders who come in and want to show off their program, and it never works. But and if we start talking about that, that's another whole show in itself.
Exactly.
So there's things I wanted to touch on, other things I wanted to touch on, like for example, why, and I don't know for God's sake, why we know we have to go out and play international games, and I'm talking about national football at every level, including the women, because we already forget them too. The under 15, under 17, under 19, under 21, under 23 in the national team, and the women in the same categories. Why don't we encourage or participate in games outside? And the Caribbean is enough for us to handle because they go past us already. Mm-hmm. So why don't we bring in and go out and play? Because if we don't play, we don't get international experience, and we're gonna be in big waters when we get to any tournament.
And Steve, I would say that the major excuse that they use at all times is because they don't have the funding for these programs. Because if they have to do a camp, they need funding for the camp. If they have to bring in a team, they need funding for the team. And that is always the issue. They do not have funds to run the programs. But I am saying, once they have proper structures in place, I know that FIFA sends money for these things. Mm. So if the monies are channeled in the proper direction, then these things could be feasible.
You know, Jeff, I think they can run a barbecue or whatever, man. I mean, the teams, community teams that goes to Barbados or Guyana or Suriname or Tobago. And so, I mean, there is ways to raise funds and to make this thing happen. And if we can't get it from the TTFA, or we can't get it from sponsors, and if we do like a barbecue at the side of the road, they might say, "Oh Lord, look what it's come to. Let's give them the money."
Who's going to give anybody? We need government.
I mean, it could be TTFA, it could be government, it could be whatever.
Right.
But it have to get the money to play.
I am someone who believes that any organization, even as individuals, we should strive to be autonomous. We should strive to have our own financial independence. I believe in that, and I think the way things are set up, the TTFA and then the governing bodies depend on monies coming in from external sources over which they have no control. Every member association gets the FIFA subvention, and from ever since, that has been our main source of income. I find it very responsible to just say that's what we're going to get money from, all right? If we are able to, as you're talking about the barbecues or whatnot, to generate our own resources, even the corporate entities will have more respect for you because you're not going begging, right? You want something to put on what you have. It gives you a certain amount of credibility knowing that you generate your own income. That's how it is as an individual. If you go out, and rich people get people to give them money, but a poor person will say begging. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But that's just how it is. And we need to develop, I have an idea that the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association should carry football back to the people. We're talking about communities, and if we want to get buy-in, and this is literally now buy-in from the public, we need to develop on our transparency. right? One of the ways that is, and I wouldn't say easy, because you'll have to market it, you'll have to push it, you'll have to show the people that what they're doing with the money is to get Trinidad and Tobago to invest in the football, which belongs to them anyway, right? There are ways that I've worked out. You can get $40 million a year from Trinidad and Tobago by, we don't call it donations, but this is them giving money. The people who donate to it, they get some type of incentive, right? Whether it be free tickets or season tickets for your games and these type of things, because there are packages that you provide. We have 1.5 million people here, and to be able to generate that on a yearly basis, because these people, you have, when you give your donations, you get your package with your t-shirt, you get TTFA mug, something like that. But again, we don't want to do those things because we want to depend on the money that's coming from FIFA, the money that's coming from government, right? And if we develop our own income stream, we will have more respect from the government as well, right? Because then they have less say as to how you do what you're doing. You're able to implement your plans because you have your own thing. You have FIFA funds coming in, which now becomes a little icing on the cake rather than the whole cake. You understand? And that is how now we free ourselves to be able to fund the programs which the players and coaches so need. And now you can actually do something because now you actually have resources that you can budget for.
And that is one of the major things with TTFA. I find that they don't market their products well. Because like I was speaking to one of my colleagues in Tobago, and they were saying right now people hungry for something. Okay? They could get that Dwight York Stadium filled, as you would say, a little international game. Even if it's a friendly women's game. They will. So in that way, they learn to generate income on their own. The little memorabilia store, even using the home of football. You run your hotel and you have guests because that area there where you have all those other sporting areas and stuff taking place, right? You have cricket, you have swimming, all those things, and you have competitions taking place all the time. You do that, right? They had plans where they were people who were involved in football love the line. Why not have a nice little bar or something that you can attract persons and they come to the game right at the ball and they come there instead of going by the bar over the road by the cricket ground and line. So you find ways in which you can produce revenue and you use those revenues to fund your teams, to send the teams, as you say, bring or send them so that they can get their international experience playing other teams. And that is how they will develop.
And there's other ways. I mean, they could even go down to the old-fashioned way, run a raffle for a car or something. Real money you get.
Plus funds.
And
then you
then
have to find ways.
Cricket play football, and half a game, and then the other half football play cricket. Half a game, and make it exciting for the fans. Come on,
That's right. Market.
But we don't think outside the box.
That's right.
And how we gonna change that? I have no clue.
Look, we get some good ideas there, Steve. I mean, those are things that, because particularly now, we're at a moment where the Normalization Committee was charged with the responsibility of clearing the debt. One of my biggest fears, concerns, is that we end back up in the situation that we were, 2-3 years ago in a short period of time. Because if we don't put things in place, that's exactly what's going to happen. Because if you're running an organization that requires at times large amounts of funds to run, and you are not making money, you can only end up in debt. That's what's going to happen. So either you take advantage of the players and the coaches and don't pay them, right? Or you skyrocket your debt because you're waiting on this FIFA funding again, as I mentioned, which all countries get that. Right?
isn't the normalization committee has to make all this, put the system, rewrite the constitution, do all kind of stuff to make it be, consistent in the future going forward?
Yeah, well, that's their function. Whoever finds themselves in the leadership position, that's their role, that's their responsibility, right? To put Trinidad and Tobago football on a firm financial footing that would see them being able to carry out the programs that they need to.
Let me put you guys on the spot, man. I like to do that. Going forward, who would you like to see be the president?
Lord have
Personality, person type, like maybe say Steve David or something.
Yes, Steve David. I wouldn't put a person, and I'll tell you why. To be honest, I've been a little bit demoralized by the things that you see and so on. But what I would like to see in terms of how we go about doing it is that we, out of normalization, we go in to a period where we have agreement that's going to be hard because we hardly agree on anything. But the process to get us there is what is going to be important. That we get someone who has the support of all the stakeholders, right? I have a couple of those people in mind, right? They're not going to be probably mainstream. They're persons who are good bridge builders, between the different factions and so on. And I would like to see that is the process that we take. So we go into a period where there would be no elections, but there will be somebody who is put forward who has the support of all the different stakeholder groups to run Trinidad and Tobago football.
Without a footballing background?
No, with a footballing background. With a footballing background, of course. Yeah.
Well, for me, I will not name anybody either. I know that I've been hearing about some persons who would like to put themselves in the ring.
Intention.
But I would like, as Jefferson said, someone who would, you see all the recommendations that were given for every single department, including the refereeing department, that person try to, implement those things. I know that they were working on the constitutional change and so forth. I don't know how far that has reached and if it comes in line with what FIFA is asking for. But you see, right now, they must have the elections because they must have somebody in place.
Yeah.
And I am worried about support for something in return because we're going to end up in the same position that we are in now, because this person will say, okay, if you support me, I will give you X. And then the next person will say, if you support me, I'll give you Y. And sometimes what they are promising is not what is really recommended. All right? Because I can attest to that happening with the last administration that won the elections. There were things that they were told, do not do X, Y, and Z, and they went and they did the exact thing that they were told not to do. They were advised not to do. All right? So I hope that the person who comes in tries to adhere to what was recommended, and then we start building on what was it, so that we can get Trinidad back to where it's supposed to be as Caribbean number one.
Right. In terms of the no election, right? Well, what I mean by that is, if there's one candidate, we have unanimous. Everybody is in for that person, right? So if we are able to come out to a system that we agree, okay, this is the person that we want to see run Trinidad and Tobago football. That's the person who is nominated, and that person has unanimous support to a full mandate to carry out the,
Okay. I come to Steve where everybody wants to be the big papi. I am telling you, before that election time, you will see more than one person popping up to be the president.
Yeah, that's not a problem. But I think the person, given the structure of the constitution and so on, there only so much people could vote, right? And if the persons who have to vote, the members say that, okay, this is supposed to be good, we could have 100 people outside who fit the requirement, but again, that's the person who will be voted for unanimously because that's the person we put forward, right?
Excuse me, maybe I fell asleep a little bit, but I didn't quite catch the names of the people you guys.
we just put criteria that we would like to see that person possess.
I thought I fell asleep because I didn't hear no names. But I'm sure you guys have somebody in mind though that you would like to see, but you don't want to disclose. We get right into the end, but what quality this person should have?
For me, excellent leadership qualities in the sense that you are a people person, not someone who would be my way or the highway, right? You listen to the stakeholders and you try to reach a common ground for the best, in the best interest of football in the country at all levels. Yeah. That's the person that I want to see.
Strong communicator, as I said, already somebody who, builds bridges instead of burning them. A good football IQ, good in terms of organization and so on. Yeah.
You see?
Not just for the money.
So, can I nominate Steve?
Steve could be. There are persons who you might have in mind, but you don't know what are they thinking, whether they're interested or whatever. But I have heard some names bantered around. I have nobody in mind that I would like. I am willing to work with anybody who possesses those qualities, as Jefferson said, to build bridges and not burn them.
So, all right, you would not see Steve David running. So, you can call it out. I want to thank you guys for all your expertise and giving us all the good advice. I hope TTFA, government, whoever, I hope you guys took notes and implement some of the things that we just talked about. NCBN TT, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. Viewers, thank you so much for tuning in every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. Don't forget we have a Facebook page where you can check us out, and don't forget we have an email address, fieldreamstt@gmail.com, where you can drop us a line. This show has ended. Go in peace. I'm Steve David. Good night.